Hello everybody, how is everyone doing? Today I will be talking about the realness factor. I love covering this because OCD will make it feel as real as it can possibly get, and it's very important that people understand that, understanding how it's operating, the nature of the disorder, because OCD is very good at convincing you with the realness. So never underestimate how real it will feel with OCD. Whatever your fears are, OCD can mimic anything. It can make that feel as real as it can possibly get. If you have a fear of, as an example, harming somebody, it will make it feel so real. So let's say you have an intrusive thought, it will feel like you want to act on that intrusive thought. It will feel like you have acted on that thought. As an example that I always give, when you walk past somebody in the street, it's going to feel super real, as if you have done something. And any attempt to solve that, any attempt to figure that out, any attempt to get an answer and to seek certainty, you're setting OCD up to thrive. OCD will have a field day. Why? Because you can't get certainty. OCD is in the driving seat. OCD has hijacked the realness. No matter what certainty that you think you can achieve, OCD will slice through that immediately, and it will convince you that your worst fear is true. It will convince you that you have done the worst case scenario. It will doubt all the intentions. It will doubt your urges. It will doubt absolutely everything. And it can even mimic the sensation. So let's say you walk past somebody in the street. It can then make it feel real, as if you've moved your arm in that person's direction, that you have intentionally harmed them, or you have pushed them, or nudged them, or barged them, or whatever. And then any attempt to solve that, any looking behind to see if you've done such a thing, will just fuel that OCD cycle. I'm afraid you won't get an answer. You're going to have to roll with the uncertainty and work on the unconditional self-acceptance towards the worst case scenario. That's not agreement. That's not saying you have harmed somebody. That's not saying that you will harm somebody. But the only way around this is breaking down even if you did, because any seed of doubt, OCD will thrive. If you keep reassuring yourself with, oh no, but I wouldn't have done that. Oh no, but I would never do that. Oh, that's the last thing that I would do. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. OCD isn't listening. OCD doesn't give a crap. OCD will not be satisfied no matter how many times you reassure yourself, because all OCD needs is 0.0000001% doubt, and that's it. It's thriving, it's flourishing, and it will lock on hard, and it will fully grip, and it will not unlock, it will not budge, it will stay there locked on, because that's all it needs, is that seed of doubt. This is why we have to tackle that with unconditional self-acceptance of, even if the worst case were true. That's not saying it is, but that is the only way around OCD, by changing our perspectives on our core fears and the irrational beliefs that we hold associated with our core fears. You can also get the reverse angle of this particular fear with the fear of being harmed. How does OCD make that feel real? Well, what it does, it can mimic the feeling of being touched inappropriately, being assaulted. It can latch to a memory. It can distort a memory. It can twist. It can manipulate memories, events in the past. Oh, was I harmed? Do I need to accuse that individual of doing something to me? Now, of course, somebody could harm you. Of course they could. But OCD will mimic that. And it can make it feel so real as it can get. We sound like a broken record when we say it, but we say it because it's so true. OCD can make anything feel as real as it can get, okay? For example, if you had a fear of being pushed or being touched, or somebody making contact with you in public, OCD can then mimic that sensation. So you might feel movement with your clothes, or you might feel the sensation of somebody brushing past you. It can do that, right? Or you might feel a tap on your shoulder and nobody tapped you. It can almost, that OCD can then mimic that touching sensation. It's very good at doing that, It really, really is. So the only way around that isn't by solving it, isn't by walking around with a camera trying to figure if you harm somebody or if somebody harmed you. That's going to do nothing at all. That's going to keep the OCD fire burning. The only way around it is seeing, well, even if that did happen, how could I come to terms with that? I obviously wouldn't like that. I obviously wouldn't want that. But even if that were the case, how could I look to adjust to that, adapt to that, change my perspective on that, and ultimately learn to accept it and move on and live a life how I wish to live? If that was the case, if I was harmed, pushed, touched, whatever, and that's the only way around it, by changing our philosophies around the worst case scenario. Health fears, very, very common, how it makes that feel real. All of a sudden, you can be absolutely, utterly convinced that this one is different, this one is real, this one requires urgent medical attention, this one requires a doctor's opinion. Now, of course, with health fears, we do advise, hey, you might want to speak to a doctor on that, get the recommendation of a doctor. But my advice is this: it's always factor in, always weigh in that you have OCD, meaning that no matter what the doctor says, you will probably doubt, and it will feel super urgent. So I tell people, you want to go and visit the doctors once, take their advice and roll with it. Go from there. Okay, because an OCD sufferer will want more and more and more. You'll doubt the doctor's advice. You'll doubt whatever you read online, which is a very slippery slope, by the way, especially with ChatGPT and Googling, very slippery slope. So you've got to be careful. You've got to be very careful, because within seconds you can be utterly convinced that this one is real, this one is different. Whether that's you've just left the doctors and then OCD switched, it's morphed, it's weaved in and out of that fear and found a variation of that fear, and then you thought, oh no, I need to get this one checked out. So you quite literally turn back round and go back into the doctors, or maybe you phone up and say, look, I've had a variation of symptoms, I need to go back, I need to get this checked out. Now, of course, you're a human being. I'm a human being. You could have genuine health concerns. You will have genuine health issues, of course, right? That's the risk we have to take. But please factor in with OCD, it's going to make it feel as real as it can get. If you have a fear of dying, fear of getting ill, fear of developing a deterioration illness where you gradually get worse, whether that's some kind of brain illness or disease, or the weaker, sort of the muscles get weaker, the bones get weaker, it's going to mimic that. Now, of course, I am no doctor. I'm not here saying these things can't happen. You could be going through something like that. That is a possibility. But please factor in how OCD will mimic that. So just be aware when we're running back and forth to the doctors, getting health fears checked out, that OCD could be in the driving seat, and OCD could be hijacking everything, because it will make it feel real, incredibly real, convincingly real. That's how it operates. It's the nature of this disorder. As a coach, the biggest thing that I see people slip up the most on when they've been doing well is the realness. What do I mean? Well, when somebody's going along, they're making real strides, they're making real progress, huge momentum on their journey, and all of a sudden, OCD hooks. And whether it's a morph, so whether OCD's jumped to a different theme, whether it's a variation of their current theme, whether it's an old theme that's resurfaced, whatever it may be, please do not underestimate how real it will feel when it first latches. When you've been doing well, you can almost get the sensation that you're out of the woods, and you can believe that you're out of the woods, and you feel like, no, I won't be caught off guard. No, don't be silly. I'm wise now. I know what's going on. I know this disorder in and out. I know it too well. I won't be fooled by it. Haha. I see this all the time, and I know this myself because I used to get fooled by it all the time. That this one felt different. This one felt like the exception. No, this one isn't OCD because of, and then before you know it, you're hooked in the cycle. You're hooked in the cycle because it's very good at catching you off guard. Okay, it's very good at doing that. So be aware of its tricks. When HOCD may latch out of the blue, it can suddenly feel so real where you're doubting your attraction. What as if I've been living a lie all this time? What as if I'm a fraud to my spouse? What as if I'm actually attracted to the same sex? How real is that going to feel in that moment? Incredibly real. It's going to feel like all you've ever known has been a lie. And when you are triggered, you will not remember what it's like to not be triggered. You will feel like that is your state forever when you are triggered. You will feel like how you feel now will feel forever. And you can't see a way out. Hence why people act quite erratically when they're triggered. Hence why people do all kinds of extreme behaviors when they're triggered to get relief. All kinds of extreme compulsions to get relief. Because when you are locked in that moment, it's very, very hard to see a way out. Always remember that. When existential first latched for me, the realness of that, the realness of this discovery that, wait, how's nobody realised this? How does nobody notice this? My existential OCD went after sort of the vastness of the universe, how small we are, like nothing really matters and so on. And I just suddenly thought in that moment, but everything that I've ever done, what's the point? It hooked hard, it hooked real hard, and it felt so real. And I thought, well, what's the point of doing anything? Oh no. And it was so convincing that nothing mattered, and that was so demotivating. It hit me real hard. That it took me a little while to adjust to that, to push through the demotivation barrier, and to change my philosophies around things not being real. Where the uncertainty, roll with the uncertainty, where all the discomfort that brings. Okay, that's how it's going to feel. Where fear of fear was latched on, I had sensory motor / fear of fear all latched on at the same time. Fear of my blinking, noticing my blinking forever, or breathing, or whatever it was. And fear of fear was disguised behind that, thinking, what if I'm trapped in that torturous cycle? And because I had a big fear of being trapped, and fear of being locked in, and fear of my life being compromised forever because of something blocking me, as in noticing my blinking forever, or just having something stuck, like a sensation stuck, it felt so real. I was scared of that, so then OCD would mimic that. It'd be like, well, what is if you're trapped in that torturous cycle? And I just felt so locked in. It felt so real. It felt like that was my forever state. Because I was scared of being trapped forever, that's how real it felt. It felt like I was trapped forever. That's how real it felt. I couldn't see a way out in that moment when it was locked on hard, and it wasn't giving me any respite. As soon as I'd open my eyes in the morning, it was boom, you're locked in to the moment I went to bed. And this will probably trigger you watching this, but this is just the reality of this complex disorder and this nuanced disorder that we have. Okay, so please don't underestimate that. Please don't, because I see it a lot. I see people get caught off guard by how real this one feels, how different this one feels. This one feels like the exception. I often say to people, if I was given £1 or $1, for you Americans, if I was given £1 or $1 for the amount of times that I was told that, Sam, this one's different, this one's real, you don't understand because this one's different from the previous one, I'd be a very rich man because I hear it all the time, almost every call, that this one feels convincingly real. So understanding that is critical in order to get better. And this is why we can't keep reassuring ourselves that, oh, yeah, but this isn't the case, or this one's definitely OCD, or this is this, or I would never do something wrong, or this is just OCD. This is just OCD. It's one of the worst reassurance statements that I see, because OCD slices through that immediately because it says, but what if it's not OCD? OCD will doubt it being OCD. You have a doubting disorder and it will make it feel real. So just reminding yourself, oh, this one's just OCD won't work. I'm afraid you're going to have to go towards, even if it wasn't OCD, and even if this one was real, how you could apply unconditional acceptance to that, change your perspectives on it, completely change your outlook on what the fear is, what's cutting those compulsions associated with that particular fear, and so on. Okay? It will feel as real as it can get. Quite literally. It will feel as real as it can get. Never forget that. If you are interested in one-to-one calls, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. My name is Sam, and as you can see from the cards behind me, I am now a married man with the wedding day cards. So please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. You can get in touch with us here. We can book you in as soon as we can. I don't know when this video will be coming out on the channel, but we're currently in July, so I know we're very busy at the moment and we'll try and get you in as soon as we can, but please don't hesitate because slots are getting taken very, very quickly. We want to book you in and get your journey started as soon as we can, because there is a chance of recovery. You can recover. You don't have to just live in this just scared of the realness all the time. I was so locked up in my mind of how real it felt. I felt trapped. I felt lost. I felt completely stuck. I couldn't see a way out. until you start seeing how it's operating with the realness and breaking that down layer by layer by layer, like taking layers off an onion, just gradually picking it apart and dismantling the fear, dissecting it, deconstructing it and bringing it down, so it's tuning down that catastrophic reaction of extreme anxiety, panic, shame, guilt, depression, all those emotions that we feel. It's all part of what we'll break down in one-to-one calls. So please get in touch, please don't hesitate. And if you have enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It'd be great to speak to you soon. Guys, take care, look after yourself, and I hope you enjoyed my documentary, Beyond the Guilt. It was great fun making that, and I know that raises awareness for OCD in so many different areas with taboo-related themes and so on. You're really not alone, and there is a chance of recovery. You can get better. You don't have to stay stuck forever. Guys, look after yourself, and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.